You know, it was, I think Mark one time on the show, it's like when you go backstage, you don't know what to say to somebody.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, gee, your clothes look good, or...
You have no idea what you did out there.
Exactly.
Right.
I've never seen it quite done that way before.
Right.
And I used to use that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We got to use that, write that one down. That's a good one. Somebody going to cue me, or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay.
Wow.
This is a big deal.
Thank you all for coming. We'll play Stump Art.
This is a very big deal. Hi, thank you for doing this. This is such a big deal for us.
Art, we're so excited.
How are you?
Art, we have done something unusual. For you today, we have a bar cart.
Oh my God.
We have screwdriver, Pepsi, cashews, salted and regular. We have Utz potato chips with ripples and
Pennsylvania.
whatever the San Carlo version is called. I don't know, but we'll pull it over to you so you can help yourself as we go.
Or can I make you a drink,
Yes.
Art? Can I fix you
You may.
a screwdriver?
Yes, you may. Am I the only one who's going to drink?
Well, we'll get drinking. Just don't worry. This
I'm
is
very spoiled.
This is Michael's former bedroom. Take a look, or feast your eyes on the refuse.
Thank you, sir.
Arthur?
This is our fancy podcast table.
We got it from Amazon.
Very good.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
You sure?
Let me get a gulp and we'll
There you
go.
go. You didn't put a nice orange.
Oh,
wedge.
sorry, Art.
What is
Oh,
wrong
heaven
with
forbid.
you? What kind of a monster are you?
Very fancy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just give me
Would you
another.
like a Pepsi
Like a
also
Pepsi
ready?
also?
No, not yet.
Okay, not yet.
We'll move to that.
Yes. We're going to start with the alcohol, and then
Yes.
Okay.
Soften up on the soft drinks.
we're going to start.
Okay.
Okay. You'll have to hear us talk about you in front of you. So pretend to not get uncomfortable.
You can grunt. You can.
Yeah, you can say words. When Anderson did it, he disputed everything we were saying. So
And I raised my hand.
yes, yeah. If you raise your
I
hand,
object.
Yes. Ready? Yes. Hey everyone, we're back with another episode of Let's Talk Off Camera. So let's get talking. Today, our guest is truly, I think, the greatest person to grace our humble podcast studio. He's the last true gentleman, I believe, on the planet. As my dad would say, they don't make him like that anymore. But he says that about himself. But I'm talking about Art. He's the heart and soul of live. We're not talking about Michael Gelman. We are talking about Art Moore. Art Moore, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you are not familiar with the talk show Live with Kelly and Mark, what is wrong with you and why are you listening to this podcast? But Art has sadly announced that he will be retiring in September, which I believe this is his intervention. And we're going to talk him out of retirement.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, this is the goal. This is not really a podcast. It's just an intervention. Before we get this interview started, would you like to share your favorite Art Moore memories or your first Art Moore memory, Jan?
Yeah, I'd love to. But by the way, I want to mention that we do have a guest with us today.
Yes.
Who's another Live employee, Kelly Burkhard.
Kelly Burkhard. Yes, our
Be
booker, our talent booker.
Actually, last week I had the pleasure of sitting down with Art and we started talking about today's interview. And just sitting with him and talking with him was one of the greatest things ever because I just learned so much about his life. I didn't think I could fall in love with you more, but I did. One of the funny things that came out of it is we were talking about his sense of style. And I said, well, what do you think when the producers come to work wearing, sneakers and a T-shirt?
Pajamas.
Yeah. He goes, I just think you guys are lazy. As I looked down and I was wearing all my workout clothes. But,
It's all context.
Art's always rooting for us and always trying to make things work for us. He's more of a yes man than a no man, which I love at our show because we need that. And I love that about you.
Perfect counterbalance to Michael Gelman. He's like the Jedi, and Gelman is like Darth Vader. Yes. Albert.
Well, I have had the good fortune of having been out with Art socially. We've had dinners together. Art, who you may not know is one of the biggest fans of Phantom of the Opera, has come to see my partner Kyle in the show many times. How many times did you see the show in total?
18.
18
times. Wow.
Wow.
But my favorite story was the Halloween episode early on when I was set to produce Art as Wonder Woman for the first time. And
It's a gem. You should YouTube it, Google
Still
it.
haunting
It
me.
is.
Put it on our socials.
Yeah, it's on social media.
And the hallway that you had to walk through to enter the silver door of the live set was maybe at most like 3 feet wide. And Art was supposed to be in a Wonder Woman spin prior to entering.
He just had to spin around once, and we were going to speed it up and make it look like he
Right.
spun around 100
So
times.
all of a sudden we hear from the stage manager, cue Art to spin. So poor Art couldn't have his hands out to balance himself, had his hands straight up, and it's in the back spinning for Art. I know it felt like 20 minutes, but it was probably like 2-3 minutes of spinning
It was
backstage.
3 seconds of spinning. What are you talking about?
Before he went out. So the door then finally flies open and Art goes out mid-spin and then
And falls down for the
and
rest.
grabs the desk and holds on to the desk for dear life.
Well, plus I was in some kind of boots or I don't know what the heck I was in. And that didn't help.
It didn't help.
Didn't help.
It didn't help. So I'm sorry, Art. I was only told what to do.
Kelly B, what's your favorite Art Moore memory?
Well, I love everything about you. You're the kindest, most loving, just generous man ever. And it's been a privilege to work for you and with you for all these years. And you've always been someone that anything that was going on in my personal life, there for me and for anyone who needed you. And I'll never forget it. And I love you for that.
Yeah.
And I love you also for at the Oscars after hours of torturous work, starving. No one cared when we were done. No one cared.
No one cares.
But you. And always made sure that we had water, some cold pizza, and like
Like hide a pizza for us so we
Absolutely. Yeah.
have
You
something
would.
to eat.
only you.
The only
And
one.
I love you.
So true.
Well,
And-
thank you for that. No, I
Seth, do
appreciate it.
you have an Art Moore?
Do I ever?
Oh, boy.
Arthur, I just want to kind of second what Kelly was saying and first just say that my first memory, and it's kind of a mix of memories, is just of you being so kind, so early, and so often to me at this show, to both me and I want to shout out my wife, Kim, on those remotes. You touched both of us in a time of relative vulnerability when I was new on the show and made such an impression and I don't know, just made it so much more comfortable, and you bring such a loving vibe to such a special and wonderful place. And anyway, so my memory of many is having the privilege of being able to shoot with you at your home. It was everything I would have expected and beyond my wildest dreams, from the sock drawers to the bag of chips in the closet. This took a turn into like some kind of like
Into
speech
something
or something.
bizarre.
We're eulogizing Art.
I was going to say,
It's
have I
very
passed
strange.
on? And
No, but there's like, I don't know, for me as a producer, there's also this vibe, like, it's like this sense that we always want to impress you and make sure you like it. Like, I'm always like, did you like it, Art? Like, I come over afterwards, I'm like, what'd you think? Because it's just that thing, like, if you get your approval, it's like a good job. We've done well.
So my first memory of Art Moore was as a live viewer. I used to watch live every day in my dressing room at All My Children. And the one thing I noticed was that no matter what was going on, Art was this stable, reassuring, loving presence. And it particularly became apparent to me during the Kathy Lee goodbye week. Art's tribute was so beautiful and so heartfelt and so warm and genuine and generous. And watching her react to you, it reassured everything I thought as a viewer, because as a viewer, you're like, that guy seems like a true gentleman, like the the last of his kind, like the last gentleman on earth. But then it was reconfirmed when I showed up there, and you were so welcoming to me and generous. Like, the entertainment industry and live TV is not as fun all the time as people think. And you are, I can say, the most loving, generous, unequivocally the brightest light in entertainment, specifically in that live daytime TV genre. You bring everything. Oh, look who's showing
Well, she's back.
shown up for now. Lola Consuelos has walked in. I mean,
Are we having screwdrivers?
Well, one of us is.
she's 23. Can you believe
know.
it?
I'm so sweaty.
Okay.
I'm so happy.
Well,
And I agree. I
we'll
heard my
save the
mom.
hug.
Everything she said outside, I agree with.
Oh, you were eavesdropping?
I was trying
Well,
to-
have a seat and quiet down, because now we're going to talk. We're finally going
The
to talk to Art
interrogation
more.
is going to begin.
Now we're going to interrogate. If you're an avid viewer of Live, or if you listen to this podcast at all, you know anything about us, you probably already love Art Moore. You're in love with Art Moore, but I defy you, new listeners to this podcast, not to fall in love with this man that we just for some reason eulogized.
Yes.
So, Art, I'm still trying to, like we said, this is your intervention. We are trying to get you to stay, but you announced that you are retiring after 53 years of being with the ABC family.
Correct.
Are you feeling conflicted at all about your decision?
Well, it's a yes and no thing, truthfully. Conflicted about the work part, no. But it's the people. Because for me, if you don't have the right group, you're not going to have a successful operation to begin with. And knock on wood, we've been very successful in keeping most people together for a long period of time. And when some of these people, including Gelman, I've seen every day for 36 years. So not having that is definitely going to be bittersweet. And I love the banter that you two have stirred up. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of people who said to me, they are unbelievable. It's so much fun. It's so straightforward. It's so genuine. And, you can't beat that. And to your point about live television, most people, it's scripted or edited or manufactured. And the fact that the general public perceives that so quickly and has ingratiated the two of you into their lives, to me that's tough to leave.
Yeah.
But I think the straw for this was the fact that we are moving
Yes.
the studios downtown.
Right.
And I thought, rather than disrupting everything twice, let me go before the show goes, and then whoever replaces me can deal with what they need to deal with in a new environment.
You coward.
And say, well,
Did you ever consider leaving before? Was there ever a time where you were like, I've had enough?
not really.
Really?
No, I can't, and I don't want to make it sound cliche, but to me, I look at every day as an opening day. Not that we've done this before, but that we've got to do this right to keep it going.
Right.
So there's that adrenaline rush that I even get just waiting for the two of you to walk out when we start the show. And I have a sense about audiences, and so I can kind of tell if this is going to be a good one or a bad one, or we got problems in River City, and we got to work to get it going, and I can tell you do that.
Yes. Well, can you tell me, and can you confirm for our audience, the listening audience, that our Tuesday audiences are always off, historically?
Yes.
No matter who my co-host is, no matter what.
Well, I'll give you my theory.
Okay, give me your theory.
And I learned this when I was 100 years ago when I was producing Summer Stock. The Monday audience is still coming off the high of the weekend.
Right.
The Tuesday audience comes in and they go, well, the weekend's over and I got to go the whole rest of this week before I'm going to have fun again. So that tends to be where the lull is.
Yeah.
Because by Wednesday, they're starting to think about Thursday, Friday.
Right, you're right. You're
and
right.
most of the time, that's what happens. I remember in theater, especially if it was a comedy, and I'd be sitting in the back of the house, and I'd know where the jokes were supposed to be, and they just lie flat. And
Yeah.
the actors were delivering them the same way they do every day. There was no energy. And it becomes collective, because if you have a percentage of the people that are down, it radiates to the others.
It's true.
It's the strangest thing.
Yes. So Tuesday audiences, please.
Yes, don't be
Stay
offended.
home. Stay
Please
home.
come out.
Please.
We
He
can
says,
work
please
with
come
you.
out as I say, please stay home.
We can work with you.
At least through September.
So, the question I always get, I remember the first time I did David Letterman, he said to me, what does Art Moore do? And it is the
ask
most
me that.
asked question. So would you like to tell our listeners what it is you do, not just for live, but you have a big job. Can you explain it to our audience?
The other side of the job is for local WABC New York, all non-news programming falls under me. Mm-hmm. So the syndicated shows, Wheel, Jeopardy, whatever we may have, Tamron, plus the weekend material, kids shows, is my responsibility to secure. Plus schedule everything. Plus pay attention to the FCC files, the music licensing files for the station to stay on top of what they need to do legally.
Does any show get hit with fines more than others?
There are some, there's to be not named.
Interesting. But you also run entertainment spotlights on Broadway. You're in charge of that
I
as
produce
well.
like 14 specials a year
Wow.
locally.
By the way, have you won like a Lifetime Achievement Emmy yet?
I haven't.
Jan.
Rumor has it. Now, rumor does have it that they've nominated me.
For this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. I mean, there is nobody who's achieved more in a lifetime than you, that's for sure. So you've always been on that side of things, always on the production side. Did you ever want to be on the stage?
When I first started to have an interest in television, I was performing.
Okay.
Because I started at 13 doing magic on a kids show
No kidding.
in Greensboro.
What kids show?
The Old Rebel and Pecos Pete show.
Oh my gosh.
I knew I wanted to be in this business, but obviously at 13, I couldn't be going and running the cameras or doing anything. So I thought, well, what can I do? Well, I happened to like magic at the time.
Yeah.
And my mother, she went to this pharmacy, and the pharmacist did magic on the side professionally. Huh. So he took me under his wing, started teaching me tricks. He belonged to the IBM, which is the International Brotherhood of Magicians.
The IBM.
Mostly adults. Uh-huh. And as I was doing this, he said, the group's been talking about they really would like you to come and perform for them.
Wow. So you had to be quite good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was no nonsense with this.
Right.
Talk about nerves. So anyway, I went and did it. And one of the two co-hosts, Pecos Pete of this Old Rebel and Pecos Pete, was also a member of this organization.
Wow.
And he was there. So after I did my act, he came up and said, would you come on the show? So where do I sign? Yes. Went and did the show. It was a Wednesday. I can remember it as clear as day. Left school, went there, set everything up, did the show. Producer came out of the control room after the show and said, how'd you think it went? I said, well, that's really up to you, but for me, it was fine.
Yeah. Did the trick work?
Everything. Well, I had like 4 or 5 I did.
That's amazing.
Oh, no, everything was fine. And he said, well, how would you like to do this every week?
Wow.
So I started doing that. And then that led to mall appearances with, how they do that.
Right, of course, yeah.
And then that led to me doing private birthday parties for kids.
Right.
Because parents thought it was more fun to have a kid performing for kids than hire an adult.
The other kids must have been mesmerized.
So I made a lot of money not mowing lawns.
Right, of course. And
I did mow lawn too, but
what did your mom think?
they were excited about it. Both of them.
Your parents, but they were not show business
Oh God,
people.
no! My mother was a housewife, and my
right.
father worked for Western Electric, and
Right.
he was an engineer.
Right.
And so everything was very black and white and analytical for him. And it was like, are you sure we have the right kid here? because it didn't fit. It didn't fit anything.
Right.
And because he was so good at that, when we would go to Chicago, where all our relatives were, we would go to a professional magic store, and I'd look at, say, 20 tricks, and maybe by 10, they showed us how to see how they were done.
Right.
But meanwhile, he would come back and build the 10 that I didn't buy.
Your dad would, because he was an engineer,
Yeah,
because
he
he
knew how to do it.
understood
Yeah.
how to do it.
So that like doubled my repertoire. as it were.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're a young magician. I'm picturing you like being on this kids' television program, and we're talking at a time when people were watching TV. Television had
Right.
a couple of channels. Afternoon programming for kids was enormous, and so you're on this show, and then you go to school. What do the other kids say? So, okay, so you're a young magician. I'm picturing you like being on this kids' television program, and we're talking at a time when people were watching TV. Television had
Right.
a couple of channels. Afternoon programming for kids was enormous. And so you're on this show, and then you go to school. What do the other kids say? Are they mean about it? Are they threatened by it? Do you suddenly feel like you are an outsider now, outside of the
I've
friend-
always felt like that.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's everybody in show business.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the draw. truthfully.
Yeah.
Some were, I don't want to say nasty, but some would, make comments and do. But I just looked at it, and I don't mean this to sound pompous, but either they were jealous or that they resented that somebody else was getting attention differently than how they were used to getting it, whether it was through sports or through some academic achievement or something else.
And you understood that at your young age, or did somebody have to tell
No,
that to
I
you?
kind of understood.
You
it.
were smart. Yeah.
As my parents used to say, I was never a child. I was always a small person.
Yes, right.
Yeah, but
Yes,
you were
I
telling
understand.
me about that, how your parents didn't believe in babysitters. I thought that was so
No.
interesting.
What do you mean? What did they believe in?
Taking me with them. I mean, I went to everything. Dinner parties, symphonies, operas, plays. And I think that's where I got the bug to do this. There was something about being in those theaters and just seeing the magic. And not to be the performer, but what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. We were like that. We took our kids everywhere. And I think it makes for a really well-rounded kid. Like
Yeah.
exposing your kids to the arts and exposing your kids to things at an early age really gives them a foundational appreciation. It also teaches them how to behave, how to be engaged participants in something. Lola, would you agree with that? I think she's dipping into your screwdrivers back there. So take me from kid on the magic show, and then what happened?
So then I moved to Pennsylvania, and living in Reading, they didn't have a television station because it's too close to Philly, as
Right.
you know. So I thought, well, I can't do that. But they did have a summer stock theater, and I ended up being an apprentice there. So then it's time to think about college. And so I went to Ithaca as a theater major with a broadcasting minor.
Wow.
And then the day of registration, I flipped them because I thought I really want to do movies or television. I mean, I love theater, but I've seen enough of it from the other side, and it's just not for me.
Right.
So,
It's interesting when you get that perspective on something.
but I still, because it was my minor, I still was able to take acting classes and movement and
Yeah, you could do
all
all of
stuff,
that, right.
Which was great because it gave me a sense from the actor's point of view about what their needs are so that hopefully on the other side I could be helpful for that.
Right.
So anyway, went through Ithaca, then went to graduate school at Temple.
When you were at
Okay.
Temple, did Bill Cosby ever put anything in your drink? No?
No, but I put something in his.
Speaking of drinks, Art, how was yours? Do you need a
Did
refill?
you need a
Yes,
refill?
it needs to be touched up.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you, dear.
Yes, thank you, dear.
It's a refresh.
So take me to how you wound up at WABC and Live. Flash forward.
Okay.
Because I know there was a lot in between.
Oh, yeah.
You were at Philly first, right?
And Buffalo before that.
And Buffalo before that.
But I did, in each of those markets, the same show.
The same show.
I created this show in Philadelphia.
Right.
From nothing.
Okay. And what was it called there?
AM Philadelphia.
Right, AM Philadelphia.
So that got me started. Well, then the program director turned out to be Walter Liss.
Walter Liss.
So he was there for a while. Then he left to become general manager of our Cap City station in Fresno. Now, the interesting thing was I had already worked with Kathy Lee in Philly and Buffalo doing Friday Club telethons. Because she
Okay.
would come and sing.
Come and sing,
So
right.
I knew her.
Uh-huh.
And he just said, you've got to meet Regis and sit down and make sure he's comfortable with you. So he and I had lunch.
And what was that like?
It was terrific. We clicked, and I think he got that I got him, and
Right.
it was fine. So anyway, that was the.
But when did he
catalyst.
put you on air? Like, when did you become the character?
Yeah, how did you get
Well,
on
that
TV?
was another strange thing. I mean, all these things. It's so, and you know this from the business. It's timing and just being in the right place at the right time.
It's
in odd
100%
ways.
true, yes.
But he was obviously Kathy Lee was there, and they were doing host chat, and something came up about Philadelphia, and so I had just come up, and I was obviously on the set, but not the way I'm on the set now. So he threw it to me. I didn't want to banter. I thought this is not appropriate. I'll just do a nod or something.
Right.
And then after the show, he comes over to me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but it didn't play to go to Gelman, and I had nobody else to go to, and I provided that outlet at the time."
Even with your non-reaction.
Correct.
You,
Because
right.
I did a look or I did something.
Right, because you have you have one of the great faces.
I did, well,
Yes.
or something.
You always look
But I did an
mild.
eyebrow,
You always
mildly
look
annoyed.
mildly annoyed.
Yeah.
Nothing gives me a greater thrill than if I see you almost chuckle. Then I'm
Okay.
like, my work here is done today.
Well, I think that's how he felt.
Yes, I made Art almost smile today.
More than you know, my dear. And he said, "Okay, well, then you don't mind if I do?" I said, "No." I said, "Listen, part of the job here is to make this show work. If you need that to make something happen, I'm fine with it." It was just interesting how it evolved in a very natural way. And this goes back to what I said before about live unscripted television. And the viewers pick up on that
Yes.
because they don't see it on other shows.
It's true.
And there's something, I mean, in our show, when we redid the set the last time, we made the desk as close to the audience as possible.
Right.
Because you end up playing to them rather than the people at home, but they get that through the people in the audience.
Right.
As opposed to you being way over someplace in the audience over here.
I'm surprised we can fit cameras in between us and the. Pretty soon, the audience is going to be controlling the cameras at this point.
But the beautiful thing about that is, and that this goes to your talent, Mark's and the other people we've had in there, the ability to make those people so comfortable that they feel, and they do, as you well know, talk to you.
I know,
Even during the show.
right out loud during the show.
But you can't buy that.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're so good at playing back at it. And I mean, again, I've had people, as I call them, civilians, who are not in this business, friends of mine who, don't really understand any of this. They just know what they like or what they don't like. And they go, we watch that, and we're not like, why is it different than other shows we watch? And that's a big factor, is that spontaneity and that. But you have to have talent that can do that.
I mean, I have to say, we're only as good as the support team around us because the producers work so hard and make us look so good that we're just our job is to not, screw it up. That's basically our job. Jan
Okay,
is
I have a
chomping at
question.
the-
I am. Because Kathy leaves and we need a new co-host. And all these women come in to sit down with Regis. Was there a moment, the several times that Kelly came in, that you knew this is our girl?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Why are you making this about me? We're interviewing Art Moore.
Because I think it's special.
Well, it ties into all of this, I think. The way the set was configured at that time, it was twisted, the other way. And, of course, we had news in there, so we didn't have as much
Yeah, it was
space.
a very strange
Correct.
space, yes.
So, as usual, Michael was on the other side of the set, facing you, and I was on this side facing, or Regis was facing me. And I have no idea what the banter was. I don't remember, but there was some back and forth. And it when I was listening to it, reminded me of George Burns and Gracie Allen. And it's like Gelman looked at me and I looked at him, and we both nodded like, yes, this is the right person to do this.
Interesting. Art took me to lunch and actually explained to me, like, television, how it worked, live TV, the audience, market shares, things that I knew. I was on the soap opera for 11 years, but we didn't worry about things like that.
Right.
That was the network's problem. We were just hired actors, paid to read lines, to show up on time, to hang up our wardrobes, to not get arrested when we were not working. Like, that was basically the job.
Right.
And so going to live, it seemed to have a whole other heft to it. You had to know things. You had to know about the affiliate stations. There was so much more involvement that I did not realize went into all of it. And you were the only person, and I mean only person, to actually make me understand what it was I was getting into, what it was I was signing up for. I was 30 years old at the time, if you can imagine.
Wow.
So
I must have been too then.
yeah, you offered to take me out to lunch and explain to me what this job might entail. I think you wanted to see if I would go running into traffic or like what my reaction would be.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important for a host to know that.
Yeah.
And secondly, say that lunch had turned into a disaster, then, I'd have maybe had to rethink some things.
Right.
But time is, fleeting. I mean, people's attentions are being drawn in so many different directions. And unless they have a reason to say, all right, I'm going to sit and tune this in, your history, because these shows come and go right and left. If you look at the number of times, I've lost count.
Oh, my
years
God.
ago, opposite us in
Yeah.
syndication, there was something like 79 shows that came and went while we were still succeeding.
But they would all win Emmys. I remember
Yes, I know. Well,
they would all win
yes.
Emmys and then announce their cancellations.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you think we'll ever win an Emmy? And Regis was like, I doubt it. He would say, well, he would actually be much funnier than that. He'd be like, those sons of bitches. Like everybody was a sons of bitches. Those sons of bitches.
But we did.
Finally. Gelman, he came on this podcast and told us the Zsa Zsa Gabor story. It is one of my favorite stories of all time. And sometimes I will put on the Gelman episode and just fast forward to the Zsa Zsa Gabor segment. Is there a moment that you remember where something went wrong or crazy or wild?
Actually, I had one with her.
Okay,
in
we'll take.
Philadelphia.
Okay, tell us. Tell us your Zsa Zsa story.
At this point, I had sort of stepped away from AM Philadelphia and was transitioning to doing something else before I came to New York. So I get a call from one of the producers, and she was a guest. And they said, you've got to come up here because we don't know what she wants to do or not do, and she may not do the show, and there was a whole hubbub. So I thought, okay, I'll go upstairs. So I went up and I started talking. I said, well, what's the problem? And, well, I don't know. I'm afraid of this, and somebody's going to ask me that. I don't want to talk about this. Anyway, long story short, I calmed her down.
Well, how did you do it?
No, we just talked it through. I mean, it was the strangest thing. And because it was nothing. Yeah. So then she grabbed me and she said, I'll never forget it. She goes, you're one of my people. And I thought, oh my God, what does that mean? Yes, I thought, oh my God. So she wouldn't let me go, and she said, you got to stay with me now while I do the segment. So she goes, I want you to meet Prince. That's what I thought she said.
Right.
So we walk over to where they're ready to go out, and I see this dog, and then there was two people there.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, okay, but there's Prince. And so I go to bend down, and she grabs me because I said she was holding on.
Right.
And she goes and she introduces me to her husband, who was the prince of whatever he was.
Prince Prince von Hendricksburg of
whatever.
Transylvania. Yes.
Talk about an embarrassing
Yes.
moment.
Well, I mean, I would have assumed the dog was Prince too.
Well,
Because,
yeah. And
yes. Frederick Prince von Anhalt. Look who else is here. Mark Consuelos and
Full house today.
I wanted to ask one question.
here. Wait, come sit. Pull up a mic.
Mark, here.
Look who else is here. Mark Consuelos and
Full house today.
I wanted to ask one question.
here. Wait, come sit. Pull up a mic.
Mark, here.
No, he's got it.
I'm gonna come in and out.
He's got it.
Come in now. Yes.
It's occurred to me that you decided to leave as soon as I started.
No, not as soon as
As soon as I started, like a year in, he's like, I've had enough. I just wanted to make sure it was something I said. Was it something I did?
I was saying part of the thought process in leaving was I'd hated to go now because you were there and the show was rocking and rolling in different ways that I really liked.
Okay.
So, no, you're safe.
Okay.
That's
I'm
exactly
going.
what he said.
I'm going, yeah.
Are you going to stay and listen?
No.
We're almost finished.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
a big crowd. I've got to make a couple phone calls.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thanks.
Oh, he's talking to you. Art.
So anyway, the dog proceeded to relieve itself.
Have its way.
Yeah.
Believe itself.
Yes.
On the bushes. I mean, the same thing we've had happen.
It's my favorite thing, though. I
I
love
know.
when the dogs come in and act like dogs because we expect them to act like show business kids. And I'm like, they're dogs. So, but when they don't relieve themselves, I am crushed.
I know.
I feel
You
like
want
I
them to
failed as a host.
I have a Gloria Vanderbilt story.
Yes, tell us.
This was the same period where I was not doing the show but consulting, and I get the call, and Dave Roberts said she's upset and she may not go on. And of course it's a live show, and he had to go.
Right.
He said, "Can you come up here and talk to her?" Now I never met her
Right.
at that point, so I go up and I get to the cubicle, and she's standing in the cubicle facing the corner. So her back's to me. So I come in, introduce myself, and I said, I understand there's a problem. And she goes, well, I'm worried about, there was a book that had come out about her. Well, we weren't doing anything with it. It just happened to be on the counter, and she saw it.
She saw it and it
So she
rattled
got
her.
nervous
Yes.
that we were going to talk about it. I said, I'm going to tell you. Now, you can believe me or not, but we're not doing that. We told you.
We don't do gotcha TV.
We don't know. And
Right.
we're going to talk about what we said we were going to talk about. Anyway, she went on, did the show. It was terrific. About 2 weeks later, I get the nicest note from her.
Oh, her notes are to be treasured.
I still have it.
Yes.
Apologizing and then saying how great it
Yes.
was. Now, flip the calendar maybe a year and a half, and then I'm here, and Anderson came in to be a guest. So I told him this story, and I said, your mother may not remember this or whatever. So when he came back the next day, he said, no, she absolutely did. She said, say hello. But I mean, how bizarre that connection from a year and a half or two before would come up like that.
Yeah.
It does tell me when I talk to students about you never know what's going to happen later with
Yeah.
people you're dealing with.
When you mentor people, do you take great pleasure in all of that? Do you find that very
I do.
fulfilling?
I do in the sense that because it is so strange, and I know what not to be presumptuous, but my assumption is what they're thinking is kind of what I used to think.
Right.
And there's some of them that in a minute they're going to be fine, and others I want to tell them to go sell
Yeah,
insurance
do something else. Right.
because they just don't have that gut. I need to do this or nothing else.
That's the thing, is that unless you have that internal drive, all of the guidance in the world, all the talent in the world, unless you have that thing that comes from within, it's why we're all at this table. It's why we all sort of came from non-show business backgrounds and found ourselves all together in the same spot, because we all had a thing that pulled us, that drove us, that we never lost. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I still have it.
You
in a
still
sense.
have it.
And and I can't explain it.
Right.
I mean, a friend of mine who was an actor who's now basically a producer, but he was with me in college. I would always sit in the front row for the shows that they were doing, and then I'd critique them. And he used to get so nervous because he knew I was going to tell it like it is. Not rude but just
No, but it's
straightforward.
important.
It was also good practice for me to analyze what went wrong. You know, it was, I think Mark one time on the show, it's like when you go backstage, you don't know what to say to somebody.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, gee, your clothes look good, or...
You have no idea what you did out there.
Exactly.
Right.
I've never seen it quite done that way before.
Right.
And I used to use that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We got to use that. Write that one down. That's a good one. My favorite is Jennifer Bassi. Jennifer Bassi would always say, "Darling, you have no idea what you did out there." That was her way of
Being negative.
being
But
that
not.
was right.
Yeah.
Making them feel like $1 million. So tell me about your favorite Halloween costumes throughout the years, because the wonderment of you in our Halloween show is that no matter what line you're delivering, no matter what costume you are in, you are always Art Moore. So whether you're Wonder Woman, you are Art Moore as Wonder Woman. If
Now you know why I gave up acting.
If you are Mama June. No, but you are the singular mesmerizing performance of the whole thing. You have decided that you are going to be Art Moore as Mama June, Art Moore as Britney Spears, Art Moore as I Dream of Jeannie. It doesn't matter. You're just going to stay Art Moore. Do you have a favorite look? Do you have a moment where you were like, you know what? I look damn good.
The one that I really thought I looked sort of like the person, and also I thought it fit what we were doing when I was playing Maggie Smith.
Yes. Yes.
Because even when we were doing it, and I saw the mirror as they were doing the makeup, I thought
Dame Maggie Smith.
It really
Yes.
looks pretty close to her.
Yes.
Poor Maggie.
Yeah.
Who I thought was a terrific actress, but and we were all there as the family in that shot, and I was sitting, the Dowager sitting down, and
Yes.
that one really sticks in my head.
What do you think about the family that is live? What do you think it is about our funky little show that is so special?
First of all, it's very unusual for this number of people to be together this many years.
Lifers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
And as I've said to several people when they talk about leaving, I said the biggest problem is the lack of association, because it's been so consistent for so long, and you just assume you're going to see person X, person Y, because you do every day.
Right.
And it carries through the crew, it carries through the control room people, the stagehands, and we've seen generations of them pass through too, which is phenomenal.
Right. Tell me about when you started the Big Brother and Big Sister program, because I know that's...
Well, that really changed my life, truthfully. Yeah. It took me a year to decide to do it, because what worried me was, what if I get a little brother and I just don't like him?
Yeah.
Because they already have an issue maybe, and then if that would be the case, I don't want to make it worse.
You don't want to let them down again.
Yeah, so I worried about that. And then the other thing, and this is a misnomer that a lot of people have about the organization, they assume that the girls or boys that you get are delinquents or have some issue, and that's not the case.
No, they just
The only
need...
requirement is they don't have a father and or mother. And my little brother at the time had, in his real family, 3 older brothers, and the mother had big brothers for all of them.
Wow.
And his father, he was 6 when his father died of cancer.
Oh.
So I got him when he was 10. He'll be 64.
What?
It's unbelievable.
Art, how old are you? Are you 200 years old?
Yes,
it doesn't make any sense.
My second round.
Do you keep in touch?
Oh no, that's my family.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, his
Oh.
children are my godchildren.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then my godson's children. The first one, he named Carson Arthur Weaver after me.
Incredible.
But it obviously changed my life
But
because they are my family.
What a success story, too. So,
yeah.
they really are your family. Unbelievable.
It's beautiful.
And the interesting thing, too, is they're very good about matching people. Blair's birthday is 2 days before mine. He and I, in many ways, are very similar, but we're also very different in a lot of ways. But he's the most well-adjusted,
Right.
open to whatever my nonsense is, and puts up with it. And his wife, we hit it off immediately. It's like a fairy tale story, but it really happened.
And I'm sure he understands how you've completely changed the course of his life by just being there and setting an example, a blueprint for him to follow.
Well, I mean, it's been, I would say it's a two-way street because it has connected me with things that I wouldn't have been involved with, including his family, because then we all started doing stuff together.
Right.
And his mother with my parents, and I mean, it went on for years and years and years.
Yeah,
before
but
they
that's
passed
not why
away.
you did it.
No,
You know,
of
that's
course
the
not.
thing is
That
like
came out of that.
you got
Yeah.
so much back from it, but that's not why you did it. You did it to be a giving person, and the benefit is just the benefit.
Yeah, it's again, it goes back to that, whatever that thing is, that intangible that says this is the right thing for me.
So I was hoping that I could ask you a series of questions. They could be a one-word answer, first thing that comes to the top of your mind, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition of success?
Patience.
Patience.
You know, some people are so quick to want to be successful, and I just learned that it just takes patience, and you have to pay attention to the details and learn from the mistakes and know they're going to be mistakes and just not get down on it and be patient. And it keeps working, so
Yeah. Keep calm and carry
yeah.
on. What is a success story of yours that still makes you smile when you think about it?
I think getting the call to come to New York,
Yeah.
because it reminded me of, a scene in a movie where the person's waiting for that big break call.
Yeah.
And it may come, it may not come, and to get the call and say, do you want to come? Because what was offered was what my goal was.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily this show, but to do a show in New York, live, and then have that come to fruition.
Wow. What characteristics do you think people need to be successful in life and in business?
I think straightforwardness, again, patience, listening. I think listening's a big factor. Too many people are too busy talking, and they miss the point.
I always say pluck. You got to be plucky. You know what I mean? You
I gotta be
gotta,
careful when I say that.
Yeah, but you have to really pluck is the thing. You need like a certain amount of being able to take a certain amount of stress in your life and just sort of keep moving forward through it.
That's where the
around
green
it.
and blacks come in.
That's where the green and blacks come in. Yeah, some of the great green and blacks. Tell me about a time that you experienced a failure. Have you experienced a failure?
And I'm not sure I'd call it a failure per se, but I think sometimes in certain relationships, I have, over the years, thought one way, and I found out it was something else, and it disappointed me that I didn't
See it.
And then was I being taken advantage of, and that bothers me.
I think that I suffer from this as well, and I think that when you don't have a devious mind, you don't see devious things coming when they're there. It can be apparent to other people when they think, when they think a certain way, when people think a certain way. But if you have a pure mind and sort of a pure heart, you sometimes have this inability to see nefariousness in front of you.
Right. Well, especially if you're vulnerable in certain things and they tap into it to play you.
Right.
And you don't see it, not only is it hurtful, but it also disappoints me that I didn't see it.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
Probably stop worrying so much.
Yeah. Well, you're never going to do that. You don't
because I just...
You don't have that ability. That's not something you do.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Art, are you nervous about all these goodbyes that are about to happen? And how do you want this exit to go, Art? In a perfect world, if you could control it.
I'm touched by it, but it's internally it's going to be tough, knowing I'm not going to see certain people every day and, have that banter and the good and the bad and comparing notes and what we need to do. I mean, all that stuff it'll go through my head that the curtain is falling.
Let's just say you figure out 2 weeks in that this retirement thing is not for you, but you still don't want to travel downtown. This here podcast room is always available to you to be our forever guest for as long as you want, as many episodes as you want.
Appreciate that. I may take you up on that.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, the art of more. Art more, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Can you do us a favor and
Sure.
read this?
Well, that's it. But don't forget to listen, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. Bye, everyone. Can't wait to talk off camera next week.
That was amazing. Guys, punctuation is important.
Because I did teach English
Yes,
for 1
I'm
year.
reading it and I'm literally going, yeah, of course. It's hard to know when to pause here because listen, rate, and review, there's no punctuation. Yep.
Jan's fault.
Wrong again, Jan. Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Schillay, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillin, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.